Welcome back to Comical Opinions. This is Gabe Hernandez, and today we have a review of American Psycho #1 from Sumerian Comics. And in this issue, we relive the horror of America's hippest serial killer when his legend inspires more killers and new generations. But before we get started, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell for notification. Your attention is greatly appreciated, and stay tuned to the end for the final ranking and score. So let's get into it. American Psycho #1 from Sumerian Comics is written by Michael Calero, art by Piotr Kowalski, colors by Brad Simpson, and letters by Micah Myers. The main cover A, is rendered and drawn by Greg Staples. So how do we get here, and what's going on with this comic book as compared to the film from the year 2000 and the book on which it's based? The comic, American Psycho #1, appears to be based on the film released in 2000, starring Christian Bale and another key character, Detective Donald Kimball, who was portrayed by William Dafoe in the film. So in this comic, we catch up and are following the life of Detective Donald Kimball as he appears to be stalking a woman who's out and about at night, just enjoying drinks and what have you, as she's going about the town. And it appears that Detective Donald Kimball is going to act on some psychotic impulses against this woman when she crosses paths with Patrick Bateman, and he takes her back to his place. They enjoy drinks and other adult activities, and then he kills her. Detective Kimball witnesses all this from across the way through binoculars, and as he continues to spy on this woman, and that helps him cross paths with Patrick Bateman. So that all sounds very familiar, and that's all taking place in 1987. About a third of the way through, after that situation takes place, we cut forward to 2011, where we catch up with a young woman by the name of Charlie, as she's a partier. She's a hard partier, and she likes drinks and alcohol and drugs and everything else. And she's in a nightclub, and unfortunately, she crosses paths with a creep who's about to take advantage of her in the sexually in the bathroom. Her friend, unfortunately, breaks it up, but not before Charlie has a strong impulse or instinct to bash this guy's brains in with a axe. And if you think that sounds familiar, it's supposed to sound familiar. So her friend rescues her, and Charlie goes on about her business, and then enjoys the rest of the evening, hopefully free from molestation. But a little bit later, the creep that tried to take advantage of her gets brutally murdered, and it looks like either Charlie killed him or somebody's trying to set Charlie up for the murder. We don't know which, and that's part of the mystery. So, uh, before we get too far into what we liked and didn't like, just a word of warning: this comic is definitely not safe for work. There is plenty of gruesome violence. There is definitely nudity and sexual activity going on. So if you are squeamish or prudish in any way, you may want to think about whether or not this is right for you. But it definitely plays into the film in terms of adult material. So if you're afraid of hard R material, just think about that before you pick this comic up. Okay, so what do we like about American Psycho #1? First of all, the tone and the atmosphere of light and dark and very clean, almost pristine plastic 1980s vibe, punctuated by gruesome, brutal violence and murder, is definitely there. So especially through the artwork from Peter Kowalski, he definitely picks up on that vibe and that tone from the film, and you see that reflected here, which is good. It's what you want if you want a comic that's spinning off from the original film. Um, the character faces and such are mostly familiar. I'll get to the art in a bit, but you kind of get a sense this feels like it's a part of that film, continuing the comic format. And then the mystery surrounding Charlie, how she connects to the past through Patrick Bateman's past, and the murder that occurs and whether or not she's involved. That's an interesting mystery. So you want to know where that's going and where it's headed. So there's a lot of positives in there as far as dropping mysteries that are intriguing, and you want to know where it's going moving forward. What didn't we like about it? The mysteries are interesting, but the way it all connects together, especially that time jump from 1987 to 2011, is very jarring. So you're not quite sure how it all connects. It doesn't really seem to have a bridge between the past and the future, and so you're kind of left wondering, is this just sort of a generational thing, or is this just like another version of a different kind of American Psycho, and they're not really connected, but they're connected, thematically, but they're not really connected as far as being part of the same story, even though the first third of the comic sort of connects into the film in a very specific way. Not quite sure. So it's a little bit, the time jump is jarring. It's a little bit confusing. And so if you're looking for a jumping on point, you really have to go back and watch the film to kind of get some of the pieces that fill it in, because there's almost no setup. You just sort of dropped right into part of the original film. And if you don't have that background, you're going to be a little bit lost, especially when if you don't know why Donald Kimball is a key character in that story, or Patrick Bateman, or anybody else. Okay, so what do we think about the art? As you know, we were familiar with Peter Kowalski, from his work on the Bloodborne series from Titan Comics, mostly written by Colin Bunn. Kowalski does a great job here. The violence is brutal, as it should be. Patrick Bateman looks like Patrick Bateman, as he should, and that all works out well. Where it gets a little bit odd is Detective Donald Kimball was played by Willem Dafoe in the film. The character as drawn here does not look like Willem Dafoe at all. So it's weird that you get Patrick Bateman looking like Christian Bale, but Donald Kimball does not look like Willem Dafoe, unless we're misreading how the characters are described in the comic. It's a strange mix. So you get sort of like ups and downs about that looks great, but that other character doesn't look great. And it's just a little bit weird and slightly off-putting. So generally speaking, it's okay art, but the way the characters are rendered, some look great, some don't look like the way they're supposed to look. So final comments, final thoughts. What do we think about American Psycho #1? Good mysteries, lots of intrigue, and for what you want out of a Psycho comic, the brutal violence is all there, which is how it should be. On the flip side of that, the connection from the new timeline, which is 2011, to the past isn't clear. So it's a little confusing, and there's almost no setup. So if you're not familiar with the film, you have no idea where they're coming from as far as who these characters are, what they're doing, and things just sort of happen out of nowhere unless you have that background. So you're heavily reliant on watching the film to understand what's going on in this comic, which is sort of a plus, but it can also be a minus. Therefore, we're going to give American Psycho #1 from Sumerian Comics a solid 7 out of 10. I hope you enjoyed this review. Before you leave, please like, share, comment, subscribe to Comical Opinions for more comic reviews and analysis every week. Thank you very much, and you have a great day.